Good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's lecture arranged by Center for Asian and Middle Eastern Studies. I'm your host, Naim Mahmoud. Tonight, we are to have our fifth lecture on the series Islam as an Open Civilization. This is a six-part series which is taking place on a fortnightly basis. The aim of the series is to know how Muslims built an open civilization from Andalusia to India, where people from different cultures lived and flourished together, and if Islamic civilization has something to offer in this day and age. The title of tonight's lecture is What Would the World Gain with the Rise of Islam? The lecturer tonight is Professor Dr. Recep Senturk, who is a distinguished scholar on this field. Professor Senturk currently serves as a professor of sociology at Ibn Khaldun University. He was the founding president of Ibn Khaldun University in Istanbul. He served as a researcher at the Center of Islamic Studies in Istanbul and founding director of Alliance of Civilization Institute. He is the head of International Ibn Khaldun Society. He published widely in English, Arabic, and Turkish on a whole range of topics, including social theory, methods, civilization, modernization, sociology of religion, networks of hadith transmission, Malcolm X, Islam and human rights, modern Turkish thoughts, and Ibn Khaldun. He also authored a number of books which have been translated to Arabic, Japanese, and Spanish. So we are really happy and glad and honored to have the professor with us tonight. The format of tonight's lecture, that we will start with the lecture, which will last around 30 to 45 minutes. And then the lecture will be followed by a Q&A section, which will last around 30 to 45 minutes as well. So that's the bit of the format of tonight's lecture. Now we observe some rules, just to let you know that we ask our audience to keep the mic and mobile muted until told otherwise. We encourage the discussion and debate maintaining professional approach. We also encourage the attendees to take notes on the lectures for the comments and Q&A section. So without further ado, I'd like to ask our tonight's distinguished lecturer, Professor Dr. Recep Senturk, to start the lecture. Professor, over to you.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone from different parts of the world, from different continents, from different time zones. It's a great pleasure for me to address you about a very interesting topic. Actually, it is a new question about what would the world gain with the rise of Islam. Today, statistics show that Islam is the fastest growing religion in the world, and this is something President Obama mentioned in his speech during his visit to Cairo, and there are also statistics, showing that Islam is the second religion, has become the second religion in Europe, and Islam has become the second religion in America. So this rise of Islam, this growth, of course, there are causes for this rise and growth, but this is not what I'm going to discuss with you at the moment. This may be a topic for another talk. Here, in this talk, I would like to discuss with you what would be the consequence of the rise of Islam all over the world. So the Islamophobes who hate Islam talk about the consequences of the rise of Islam, and because they hate Islam, because they are enemies of Islam, they say rise of Islam in the world is a big threat to the West. It's a big threat to humanity, and it should be stopped. How about Muslims? Are we addressing this question and telling to the whole world, to Europeans, to Americans, to Japanese, to Russians, to Chinese, to Africans, what will happen to them with the rise of Islam? What will be the consequence of this? So this is an issue we Muslims never talk about it, and we never tell people what's waiting for them with the rise of Islam. but the enemies of Islam always talk about this question, and they reflect their hatred to Islam by claiming that Muslims will be very harmful, to the world, in particular to Europe and America, and different and to different parts of the world. So this is a question I think it's very crucial for us to address. It's high time for us, to give the proper, the objective, and the true answer to the world, and not let the world be misguided by the answer of the Islamophobes. But before giving an answer to this question and sharing it with the world, we have to deliberate about it. But unfortunately, at the moment, we don't contemplate, we don't deliberate about this question. So before we think about an answer to this question, let me bring up this question about what was the future vision of Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu, alaihi wasallam when he started his mission in Mecca and in Medina. What was his future vision? So his future vision is best demonstrated with the letters he sent to the major states, to the kings and the rulers of the major states and the empires of that time. He sent a letter to the Kisra, to the Persian emperor, and also he sent another letter to the Byzantine emperor, to Egyptian ruler, Yemen ruler, Abyssinia ruler, to different rulers of the major states in his time. And in the letter, he told them, Eslim Teslim, become a Muslim, and then you will find peace, you will find security, you will find prosperity. So this was the message of these letters he sent to the world rulers. So these letters he sent to the world leaders shows that he had a universalistic vision. Although he was the president of a small state in Medina and Mecca, so he did not have a vision limited only to Quraysh, which was his tribe, or only to Medina, or just Arab world. So his vision was not limited with his tribe, with his region, with his race, ethnicity. His vision was universal, very comprehensive. That's why he invited the leaders of those major states in the world to accept Islam and become part of the Ummah. But at the same time, he told them, this is good for you. This is good for you. If you accept this divine message, you will have salam. You will have peace, prosperity in this world and also in the hereafter. And your subjects will also benefit from this. But if you reject it, then you will face the negative consequences of rejecting such a beautiful divine message, and your subjects will also suffer for missing this great opportunity. So the letters he sent to the leaders of the world is an indication that his vision was not limited. And this is in line with the Quranic address, because Quran speaks to the whole humanity. He says, Quran says, Ya ayyuhan nas, O people of the world. And Rasulullah in his speeches, for instance, in his last sermon, Khutbatul Wada, he addressed the whole humanity. Ya ayyuhan nas. So he didn't say or Arabs or Qurayshis or people of Mecca or people of Medina. So today, let's question ourselves. What's our, is it in line with the universalistic vision of Prophet Muhammad, Sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or it's a limited vision? So the next slide, let's move to the next slide. So Prophet Muhammad alayhi wasallam's vision was so influential that this vision created a big change in the world, because the Sahabis also carried on the same universalistic vision. The ashab of Rasulullah alayhi wasallam, maintained this universalistic vision and spread Islam as much as they could to different parts of the world, to North Africa, to Anatolia, to Balkans, to the east, to Persia, to India, and we have graves of Sahabis like everywhere in the world, even in China. They went everywhere in the world and they spread Islamic message everywhere. And this universalistic vision caused a big change in world history. And there are two books written in 18th century and in the beginning of 19th century, which testify for the great impact Muslims made in world history. For instance, there is a book titled Universal History from the Earliest Account of Time. So it was written by a committee in 1730 and sponsored by the British royal family. And it's published in 62 volumes in England. So in this book, the modern history begins with the life of Muhammad, Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So the ancient history, volume 1, creation of the world, and modern history, volume 19, the life of Prophet Muhammad. So there is a picture of the page. So life of Prophet Muhammad, it's the beginning of modern history. And another book titled Universal History, Ancient and Modern. So it was written by William Mayer in 1802, sponsored again by the British royal family, and published in 25 volumes in England. In this book also, Modern History, which is in volume 10, begins with the life of Prophet Muhammad. So Muslims, rise of Islam, made a new era, and people perceived that rise of Islam and the message of Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu alaihi wasallam started a new era. They started modern period with the rise of message of Islam. So this message was praised by many people from different parts of the world. Even non-Muslims appreciated the importance of this epoch-making message, and this was made possible by the universal vision of Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. If he had a regional, local vision, Islam would be present, only to Arabia or to Mecca or Medina or the Quraysh. But because he had this universal vision, it influenced the world history, as well as the large geographies, and even non-Muslims appreciated the beauty of this message. For instance, the famous German poet Goethe, in one of his poems, praised Rasulullah alaihi wasallam and his message. This is a very famous poem by Johann Wolfgang von Goethe, Muhammad's Gesang, and he wrote this poem in 1773, praising Prophet Muhammad والسلام, and his message. Those who are interested, they can find this poem and read it. Because we have limited time, I'm not going to be able to read it. But what's important here is that even non-Muslims perceived Islam as something good, and the intellectuals, from like a non-Muslim background, they liked it. They did not see it as a threat. They thought it is something good for the world. So today, this is what's missing. Unfortunately, because we have bad PR, and because we don't speak on our own behalf, Islamophobes speak on our behalf, and they say Islam is a threat. So we have to speak on our behalf and tell people about what's our vision for the future of the world. Are we concerned only about the future of Muslim world or the whole world? So if we are concerned only about the future of Muslims, this is wrong from Islamic perspective. This is against the Sunnah of Prophet Muhammad. We have to be concerned with the future of the world, with the future of humanity, if we are followers of Prophet Muhammad والسلام. Being narrow-minded would be inconsistent, with the worldview of our Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu. So today, what's our future vision? Is it limited only to the Muslim world, only with the Muslims, or we have a comprehensive, universal, global future vision? And all civilizations have future vision. Today, Russians have future vision, Chinese have future vision, Americans have future vision, Jews have future vision, Greeks have future vision. But what's our future vision? How we see the future of Islam in 50 years, 100 years, 200 years from now. And when we think about our future vision, it should be in line with the future vision of Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu, alaihi, and it should include living and representing Islam in the best way possible, representing and representing Islam, communicating Allah's word to whole humanity, and it's presented in such a way that Islam aims the happiness of the whole humanity in both worlds, salah in this world and falah in the hereafter, and this is through rooted revival. The message of Islam is rooted in the history of prophets, beginning from Adam alayhi salam, Nuh alayhi salam, Ibrahim alayhi salam, Musa alayhi salam, Isa alayhi salam, and Rasul alayhi salam, and also the work of the Salaf as-Salihin from the previous generations. So we want to revive the message of prophets today, and in particular the legacy of Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the legacy of Salaf as-Salihin before us. So Muhammad Iqbal, wrote such an awe this budding menace has struck, the brooks, the hills, and the yonder mountains shake. The world, my Lord, is about to crumble, the world that depends upon thy guidance alone. So you see that Muhammad Iqbal had this vision, this global vision, that the whole world needs the message of Islam, the guidance of Allah Ta'ala. So it's a good example of a future vision which is in line with the future vision of Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, is global, universal, and reflects the universalistic perspective of the Quran and the Sunnah of Rasulullah alayhi wasallam. This great scholar, Abu Hassan Ali al-Nadwi from India, he wrote a book. The book is titled ماذا خسر العالم بانحطاط المسلمين. You know, what the world lost with the decline of Islamic civilization. And he criticized the present state of affairs in the world. He claimed that as Islam declined, the West gained power and ascendance over the world. However, the West had no message or mission regarding the welfare of the mankind. Their sole message was selfish pursuit of pleasure, power, wealth for themselves alone, under the savage laws of the jungle, with cutthroat competition as the mechanism for survival of the fittest. So this is what took place after Muslims lost power and control in the world. The philosophies of the West have led to wars, looming environmental catastrophes, breakup of families and communities, billions living in extreme poverty, while a handful hold extreme wealth. The message of the West, pursuit of power and pleasure without moral constraints, is spread throughout the world without any opposition. So this is about the past glory of Islam and what the world lost, you know, with the fall of Islam. All right, but it's time for us to ask some new questions. You know, so rather than asking what the world lost with the fall of Islam, we should ask what the world would gain with the rise of Islam, a futuristic question, you know, thinking about the future of Islamic civilization, and that the future of Islam is not only for Muslims, but for the whole humanity. We care not about ourselves alone, but the whole world, the whole humanity. For 2 centuries, Muslim intellectuals, statesmen, politicians, they have been discussing what we should borrow from the West. So the Islamists, they say, let's take science and technology from the West, but not their morality, because their morality is bad. And the pro-Western modernists, they say, let's take everything. You know, let's borrow wholesale, everything from the West. But I think it's time for us to change this question, and we should ask a new question. What should we offer to the West and the whole world, rather than only taking from them? So it's time for a new question, and also rather than asking, you know, what the world lost with the fall of Islam, we should ask what the world will gain with the rise and spread, with the growth of Islam. So in my humble view, the rise of Islam would offer to the whole world the following things: a multiplex worldview that goes beyond the existing false dichotomies. We have already discussed what I mean by multiplicity in our previous one of our previous lectures, and freedom of expression based on the epistemology of Zanniyat. We have already discussed this, you know, again in one of my previous talks. A solid ground for universal human rights, which I call adamiyyah, that goes beyond nationalism, racism, sexism, sectarianism. We discussed the concept of adamiyyah and the world order and universalistic, universal human rights grounded on adamiyyah, again in one of my previous talks. A new world order with global peace and prosperity, Islam and Salah. So the promise of Islam is not for the hereafter alone. The promise of Islam for both worlds, for this world and for the hereafter. And that promise in this world is not only for Muslims, but for everyone living in the world. But in the hereafter, only for Muslims. An alternative environmental ethics, and an alternative approach to animal rights, an alternative perspective to economics and social justice. So these are some of the major things that the world may gain with the rise of Islam. Of course, we have to elaborate on every item and give a detailed answer so that we communicate to the whole world that the rise of Islam is not good only for Muslims, but the whole world. Let me elaborate, very briefly on each item. So the first one, that Islam offers a multiplex worldview that goes beyond the false dichotomies. Today, human thought suffers from false dichotomies like church versus the state, religion versus science, matter versus idea, or idealism versus materialism, body versus soul, subjective versus objective, universal versus relative, society versus individual, tradition versus modern, man versus woman. These are false dichotomies from a multiplex worldview or from a multiplex perspective. These constitute one level and they exist together, unity in multiplexity, and they are not mutual exclusive alternatives of each other. In contrast, they complement each other. There is a way for them to coexist in peace without excluding each other. So the spread of Islamic multiplex worldview will save humanity from these false dichotomies. In Islam, science, religion, and art, they don't oppose each other. Instead, they flourish together. So the concept of ilm includes all disciplines, no distinction between natural sciences, religious disciplines, social sciences, humanities, arts. They are all called ilm. So there's a unified body, and all these disciplines, they are called ilm. So today, we have distinctions between natural sciences, social sciences, humanities. Some we consider like real science, the other pseudoscience, and like religious disciplines, they are not even considered science, as if they are like downgraded. But from the Islamic perspective, each one of them is ilm, and practicing or studying those disciplines is considered a fard kifaya, and the person who specializes in one of those disciplines is called alim or allama. So this tradition in Islam continued until the present time. But in the present time, we have this false dichotomy of religion versus science, and this is something like we borrowed from the West. But with the rise of Islam, the whole world, the whole humanity will learn that there can be unity of science and religion and arts, and the present dichotomy between religion and science is a false dichotomy, and using multiplex worldview, multiplex ontology, epistemology, and methodology, we can easily go beyond this false dichotomy. All right. Again, one of the things that the whole world will gain with the rise of Islam is intellectual freedom, freedom of thought, freedom of expression through the epistemology of Zanniyat. So this epistemology of Zaniyat is something unique with Islamic civilization, and usul fiqh is built on this epistemology of Zaniyat, and it provides a solid ground for intellectual freedom, coexistence of different normative opinions, for instance, existence of different mazahib, in fiqh, in ilm al-kalam, in tasawwuf, in philosophy. This is made possible by the epistemology of Zaniyat. And Thomas Bauer, in his book Culture of Ambiguity, testifies for this, how important is the epistemology of Zaniyat and the methodology built on the concept of Zaniyat. All right. So Islam offers a very solid ground for universal human rights. The protection of 6 basic rights is considered the common ground for all religions, for all legal systems, which provides a judicial ground for religious pluralism. For this reason, they are called the objectives of the law, maqasid al-sharia, not Islamic law alone, but all legal systems brought by all messengers of Allah Ta'ala. So according to Islamic theology and jurisprudence, these 6 principles constitute the unchangeable, permanent, and primordial core of all religions and legal systems in the whole world. So that's the common ground, which makes coexistence of all religions and legal systems possible. Islamic law has taken the principle of adamiyyah as the basis of Islamic law, to which rights and duties are accorded, not just the Muslims, but the whole Adamis, regardless of their religion. So this tradition, originating from Abu Hanifa, has formed the foundation of universalistic interpretation of Islam in the Ottoman Empire, in Andalusia, in India, in the Arab world, everywhere Muslims ruled. This understanding is the basis of what I like to call open law and also open civilization. So protecting all humanity is a religious obligation, from this perspective. So we Muslims, we are responsible to protect the rights of all Adamis in the world. So if an Adami is wronged or oppressed and his or her rights are violated in any parts of the world, we Muslims are responsible, to intervene and to protect his or her rights, regardless of the religion, race, and the country of that person. So there are concentric brotherhoods, a concentric unification. So unity around Muhammadiyah. So this is ukhuwa in Muhammadiyah, brotherhood in Muhammadiyah, and also unity around Ibrahimiyah, brotherhood about Ibrahimiyah, and also brotherhood around the concept of adamiyyah. So we are all children of Adam alayhi salam, and the people of the Abrahamic religions, they are followers of Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam. So unity around the Ibrahimiyah, and we are all followers of Muhammad alayhi salam as Muslims. So there is unity around Muhammadiyah, unity around Ibrahimiyah, and unity around Adamiyyah. So these are concentric circles expanding from Muhammadiyah to Ibrahimiyah to Adamiyyah, unifying the whole humanity. So Maqasid al-Sharia includes protecting the faith and religion of all people in the world, their life, their family and lineage, and their intellect and property of everyone in the world. An example from history is that the Sultan Bayazid II, the Khalifa of Islam, accepted the Jews who were expelled from Spain. He sent ships to them and brought them to Istanbul and gave them citizenship and complete religious liberty, and they are called Sephardic Jews. So they always commemorate the fact that they were saved by the Muslim ruler, from Christians who wanted to kill them. Why did they do this? This is because of their Islamic universalistic approach. So another good example of this open civilization, the principle of adamiyyah and justice and freedom to all people in the world. In 1516, Ottomans, during the time of Suleiman II, they put an inscription on Al-Khalil gate out of respect to people who live there, Christians, Jews, and Muslims. Instead of writing La ilaha illallah, La ilaha illallah, Muhammadur Rasulullah, they wrote there, La ilaha illallah, Ibrahim Khalilullah. Like in all other cities, the inscription stated La ilaha illallah, Muhammadur Rasulullah. But in Jerusalem, what did it say? It said La ilaha illallah, Ibrahim Khalilullah. So this is a good proof of the openness of Islamic civilization and how it accommodates Ibrahimiyyah and adamiyyah, this universalistic vision. All right. So again, justice, for the whole world, justice is given top priority in Islamic value system. Al-adlu asas al-mulk. This is the principle that the justice is the basis of the rulership, basis of the governance. And in the old Istanbul, the highest building was called Qasr al-Adala, Tower of Justice, in the Topkapı Palace, to indicate that the justice has the highest value in the Islamic worldview, in the Islamic normative system. That's why the highest building they had in the city was named Tower of Justice. So this is one of the things that the whole world may gain, with the rise and spread of Islam. So another thing that we can offer to the whole world, an alternative environmental ethics. So in bottled water in Australia, they put the hadith of Rasulullah ﷺ, don't waste water even if you were at a running stream. And this is Prophet Muhammad said this, to teach people not to waste water. So it's a good example how the world can learn an alternative environmental ethics from Muslims. So Descartes maintained that animals cannot reason or feel pain, and they are automata. He held that only humans are conscious, they have minds and souls, they can learn, they have language, therefore only humans are deserving of compassion, not the animals. So the modern world and the capitalist system is based on Descartes' assumption about the animal pain, and it led to the brutal usage of animals and destroyed the environment. Islam offers a meaningful relationship with the environment. We believe that animals are also, servants of Allah Ta'ala. They are creatures of Allah Ta'ala, and we must respect and have compassion to them. And Rasulullah ﷺ stated in a hadith, الراحمون يرحمهم الرحمن ارحموا من في الأرض يرحمكم من في السماء. The compassionate one has mercy on those who are merciful. If you show mercy to those who are on the earth, he who is in the heaven will show mercy to you. So Prophet Muhammad asked the milkers to cut their nails so that the others of the sheep would not be hurt or scratched during milking. So these are just some examples of how, Islam teaches people, treat environment, animals, and also plants in a kind and nice way. Again, the world may gain an alternative economic worldview, based on fair distribution and based on just sharing. So economic activity is seen from the perspective of producers making more profits, make it as expensive as possible and as low quality, as possible, so that you maximize your profit. But from the perspective of the consumers, they aim to buy as cheap as possible and as high quality as possible. The capitalist system is based on producers' perspective, and the ultimate aim is accumulation of the wealth. But the research shows that the Ottoman economic system was based on consumers' perspective, which is to meet people's needs and provide them the best quality with the lowest price. So in conclusion, Islam has so much to offer to the problems of humanity to the problems humanity is facing today. But we have to explain this to the whole world. Islam is not concerned only with the problems of Muslims, but with the problems of the whole world. And we as Muslims have many things to offer to the whole world. And the rise of Islam, spread of Islam, growth of Islam is not a threat to humanity. Instead, it's a chance. We Muslims will contribute to the prosperity and to the peace and the justice in the world. So the emergence of Islam and the living example of Prophet Muhammad changed the course of history in the past, leading to the best civilization experience in history, in India, in Andalusia, in Ottoman Empire, and in other parts of the world. So our duty is to realize Nizam al-Alam, a peaceful, just, and prosperous world order by following the footsteps of our Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And we should build our future vision on this. This is the promise of Islamic civilization, which I call open civilization. Let me have a citation from a true scholar of Islam, Al-Nadwi, from his book Islam and the World. You see, his vision is universal, global, like Iqbal. MashaAllah, India produces this kind of true scholars with a global vision, with a global future vision for Islam. These are the true scholars of Islam, true thinkers of Islam. So Nadwi wrote, Rahimahullah, today too, the message of Islam is an open invitation to the worship of and surrender to one God and believe in the mission of prophets, particularly that of Prophet Muhammad, and in the resurrection and final judgment. In return of submitting to this call, the world will emerge from the darkness of ignorance and the spirit of man will be set free. Man will rediscover his equilibrium, and from the narrow confines of the world of matter, he will come out into a world which, within himself stretches beyond both, again, from the perspective of al-Nadwi with the rise and spread of Islam. Thank you. So this is the end of my talk. So if you have questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Right. Thank you, Professor, for the lecture. It was really, really informative, and so many things were there. I hope our audience have taken note of it and are prepared for the Q&A section. Please feel free to raise your hand and start asking questions. And if you have any question, you can also write it down in the chat as well. Before our audience can come in, let me ask you, Professor, I have two questions actually in mind. Let me ask you straight away to begin with. You see, when you're talking about civilization, there are Western scholars, they think such as Samuel Huntington, they talk about clash of civilization. So we see that, how do you say it? Do you say there will be a clash between Islam and Islam civilization and other civilization? Is there any possibility of it? Or how does that fit into in current context?
Before I answer your question, I would like to greet my dear friend and colleague, Bruce Lawrence. I see him on the screen. I'm very happy. Also, our dear friend, Miriam Cook. I'm so happy to have them here. My greetings and regards to both of you from Istanbul. I really missed you. I haven't seen you for a long time. I hope we can get together and see each other soon. Thank you for joining. And yes, very good. I'm very happy, honored, and pleased with your presence with us.
It's our pleasure
in this meeting. So, as to the question about the clash of civilizations. Huntington lists 9 civilizations in the world. 6 of them lived under Islamic rule, either completely or partially. And, for many centuries, they coexist in peace, without any clash, without any conflict. So this proves that clash is necessary. So Huntington says clash is necessary, is inescapable. But Islamic history testifies that clash is not necessary. It can be avoided. If you have a peaceful, just global order, clash can be avoided. So what are those civilizations who lived under Islamic rule, like Indian civilization, Christian, Jews civilization, and African, Orthodox, and some of the Europe, they all lived under Islamic civilization for so many centuries. Actually, Islamic civilization is an Islamicate civilization, according to Marshalls. It's a civilization. Actually, it should be called a meta civilization. A civilization that includes many other civilizations under its umbrella. So either you use Islamicate civilization or meta civilization, like many people from different civilizations lived under that civilization and made many significant contributions. Do you know who built Fatih Sultan Mosque in Istanbul? A Christian architect. And maybe today's Muslims cannot understand, how the Ottoman Sultan, employs a Christian architect, built the biggest mosque in Istanbul. And also there are many mosques in Istanbul built by Balyan family architects. Armenian architects built many mosques in Istanbul. So it's a civilization, and non-Muslims were allowed to contribute in it. And many Christians and Jews worked in the construction of Süleymaniye Mosque. And records show they were given holiday, like Jews were given holiday on Saturdays, and Christians, they were given holidays on Sundays. Records show this. Subhanallah. Can you imagine, like, you are building a big mosque and the Christians and the Jews are contributing to building it, and there is respect for their religious observances. So I mean, when we talk about Islamic civilization, we should know that it is not only by Muslims and it's not only for Muslims. It's by everyone and for everyone. And this is the vision we lost, because we lost the vision of open civilization. And this is the vision we need to recover, reclaim today, and tell the whole world, we are here for everyone, not just for Muslims. See what I mean? And this is the message of open civilization.
Thank you, Professor. Interestingly, we have quite a few questions at the chat. We have Hassan, Masum, Hawa, Yusuf, Awang, and Mariam Cook. Can I ask you, please raise your hand, or also question directly to the professor? That would really help us in clearing your point and getting answer from the professor. Can I ask Hassan, please? Could you unmute yourself and raise your question, if possible? Hassan, are you there? Can you hear me? Okay. We'll go to Masum then. Masum, could you make your question, if possible, please? Okay. Right. Okay. We'll go back to those questions if possible later on. Okay. Dr. Shoaib, go ahead, please. Can you hear me, Dr. Shoaib?
Thank you. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, we can hear you. Yes.
Yes, thank you for that. I thought I'd be in the audience today and get my chance to ask a question. In terms of, thank you very much for your presentation. And I think it gave a global sort of overview of the way you actually perceive this Islamic open civilization idea. But one of the questions I have for you is, how would you, if you look at history demonstrated this openness of Islamic civilization through the state mechanism. So if you look at the Ottoman state, the 500-year plus of Ottoman history was able to practically demonstrate the assimilation, the openness, the tolerance level, all of these things that were shown. And you naturally have a very a wealth of historical evidences that you can refer to demonstrate that point. But the ideological or the sort of the principles of openness in Islamic thinking was then manifested through the state. Today, Muslims are there, the Islamic thoughts are there, but as a state level, the practical application of that is somewhat lacking. I know there's a debate about what constitutes a state and what is the reach and the impact of this so-called state, and how can it demonstrate the so-called the openness, the open civilization that Islam came to demonstrate. So it's almost like a catch-22, because I think the numbers of Muslims are not few, neither are the sort of observations of Islamic practices around the world are somewhat lacking. It's not lacking. Neither the ilm, the knowledge of the Islamic sciences, are also there. But despite that, what we find is that the sort of the fear towards Islam as a civilization or as a thought process, or has been built in such a way, it wasn't done in a reciprocal manner from individual level or institutional level, but it was done through a state level. So should this counter action or the invitation to Islam as an open civilization, should it come through a state mechanism rather than, with all due respect, somewhere like Ibn Khaldun University or another institution, which can produce the material, but ultimately the showmanship of Islam as a new open civilization should come from a society or a state that can demonstrate such.
Okay, thank you.
My question to you.
Thank you very much. Unfortunately, open civilization, meta civilization or Islamic civilization went into eclipse during the 20th century under the negative influence of Western ideologies adopted by Muslims, in particular nationalism and the nation state model. But I see this as an eclipse because our social memory is very dynamic, and we have a very strong intellectual tradition attracting us or drawing us to the open civilization direction. Unfortunately, in the legal system of any state, so-called Islamic state, or we have like several Islamic heritage, this open civilization heritage. So we are kind of suffering from social amnesia. And the change as scholars, intellectuals, is to restore the memory, because without memory, there's no thinking. Like if a person loses his or her, he cannot think. So today, as Muslims, we have problem in thinking. Why? Because we lost our memory. We are disconnected from our memory. So the memory needs to be restored so that we can have proper thinking, utilizing our memory. And those ideologies, they're like extremely conservative or extremely pro-Western, whether reactionary or apologetic. These ideologies, I mean, they have been in circulation for the last 2 centuries, and they could not offer anything new to the Muslim world or to the whole world. So now we need a new vision so that Muslims, actively, deal with their own problems as well as with the problems of the whole humanity, with the whole world. I mean, ignoring what's going on in the world is against Islamic attitude. This was not how Muslims lived in the past. So we must be concerned with the problems of the whole humanity, and the adamiyyah principle requires us, to have this approach. The Islamic civilization was not only for Muslims; it was for many diverse people from different religions, and it had a diversity management system. And actually, the strength of Islamic civilization lies in its diversity management system. But unfortunately, today, this is all forgotten. We have nationalistic ideologies which aims to homogenize everybody, standardize everybody, which goes against our history and tradition.
Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. The thing is, we have a number of questions. So to accommodate all those questions, so we hope if you could make the answer a bit short. I guess in that
Yes,
case, we'll be able
inshallah.
to accommodate as many questions as possible. Next, we'll go to Mr. Wazir. Could you please unmute yourself and ask your question, Mr. Wazir?
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
I am from Guyana, South America. My question is, your lecture was very informative, very eye-opening. But the question I want to ask, while Islam is a universal civilization, and it facilitates other civilization within its mix, and to make a greater civilization for humanity. How do we reclaim this civilization in our time? And I'm speaking about us living in South America and the Caribbean, North America, Muslim minorities in the West. How do we, what mechanism do we put in place to reclaim this civilization and extend it beyond the traditional Muslim world, as we see?
I'm very happy that we have someone from South Africa, in a region maybe many people hears for the first time, and once you start thinking about these questions, Allah will guide you, to what to do. وَالَّذِينَ جَاهَدُوا فِينَا لَنَهْدِيَنَّهُمْ سُبُلَنَا. Allah Ta'ala says, those who strive, struggle, and work, in our path, we will give them guidance. I mean, I don't really know like the specific conditions in your region, but I just talked about like general principles, and I believe that you can draw some lessons for your particular region and put them in practice. So these are some general principles, and I believe they will help you to develop this universalistic perspective. And what I suggest in particular, that you show concern to the problems of your society in general, not just Muslim minority, but the whole society. Then you will strengthen your status in society, because other people, when they see that you care about them, you care about their problems, and you don't isolate yourself as a minority from the larger society, this will unify you with them, and it will build bridges between you and them.
Thank you, Professor. We have a number of questions. We'll try to accommodate as many as much as we can. Next, we have Mariam Cook. Could you be able to unmute yourself and ask your question, please?
Actually, I'm not Miriam Cook. I'm her spouse. This is Bruce Lawrence, but that's all right. I think Recep Hoxha knows the difference between us. So, but just in case, I'm wearing a yellow shirt. So I'm happy to be here and to hear you, Recep Hoxha. And I just have been so concerned about the Uyghurs and the status of the Uyghurs in China that I had to ask you, how does Chinese civilization fit into this prospective world of multiple civilizations and a multiplex, open, Adamic view of the world, which I support, of course. But then I come to China and I come to the Uyghurs, and my imagination is stopped. So I want you to start it for me.
Yes, of course, there is always, evil in the world, and openness is, does not require that we allow evil, and it's our job to stand against the oppression and violation of human rights, and this is what the principle of adamiyyah requires us to do. If there is any violation against any child of Adam in the world, all Muslims are required to stand up against it, whether Muslim or non-Muslim. If the rights of Uyghurs are violated, it's our duty to stand up against this. And if there is any group of people, whether Chinese or non-Chinese, who are violating human rights of other people, we have the duty to stand up against them and to try to stop them, regardless of the people whose rights are violated. So whether Christian or atheist or idolater or Hindu, if someone's rights are violated, we are required as Muslims, according to Hanafi, Maliki, and Hanbali schools, to protect the rights of those people, regardless of where they live, regardless of what their religion is about. So today, there are some states who violate human rights. We have to stand up against them and oppose their mishandling their subjects. But China is a big problem, and the situation of the Uyghurs in China, again, it's another big problem. But because China is a big economic power, the other states are kind of silent. They cannot enforce China, to change its policy towards Uyghurs. It's a big challenge for the whole world, but it's our religious duty, as Muslims, to stand up against any oppression, any violation of rights. فَلَا عُدْوَانَ إِلَّا عَلَى الظَّالِمِينَ. In the Quran, Allah Ta'ala states, no adversity against anyone except the oppressors, against the zalimin, the wrongdoers. So, we are not allowed to have adversity against anyone in the world for any reason except oppression and violation of rights, zulm. So zulm is, if there is zulm, then we must have udwan, adversity against those who practice zulm. Other than that, there is no justification for udwan. I mean, diversity of religion is not reason for udwan. Diversity of race is not reason for udwan. There is only one reason that can justify udwan. It is zulm. فَلَا عُدْوَانَ إِلَّا عَلَى الظَّالِمِينَ. And thank you very much, my dear friend Bruce. Bruce and myself, we have established International Ibn Khaldun Society in 2006, and since then, we are collaborating on the study of civilizations, and we did great work together, and we have been still working, under the umbrella of Alliance of Civilizations Institute to revive civilization studies following Ibn Khaldun's Ilm al-Umran, and also Marshall Hudson is a great contribution. I believe Marshall Hudson may be considered the contemporary Ibn Khaldun. Once again, I thank Bruce and Miriam, joining us in this meeting.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you.
We'll go to our next question to Amr. Is it Amr? Are you there? Can you unmute yourself and ask your question?
Yeah.
Go ahead, please.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
Thank you, Professor Rajab. Barakallahu feekum, fatahu lakum, wa nafa'a bikum da'iman. Another excellent lecture, alhamdulillah. I have a couple of questions. How was da'wah done to other religious communities during the Ottoman era? and how would it be done in an Islamic open civilization to other religious communities while respecting them? So this is the first question. They're all related.
Please, let's go one by one so that I don't forget, and the audience also don't forget. The answer is in the Quran. ادع إلى سبيل ربك بالحكمة والموعظة الحسنة وجادلهم بالتي هي أحسن. Invite them to Islam with hikmat, with rational thinking, philosophical thinking, with wisdom, explaining the reasons and the benefits involved. والموعظة الحسنة, with a good, beautiful preaching, advice. وجادلهم بالتي هي أحسن, and debate with them, argue with them with the best way possible. بالتي هي أحسن. Allah did not say Hasan, Ahsan. So this ayat, I think, summarizes how the da'wah or the tabligh was carried on. And also there is another ayat, La ikraha fi din, and no compulsion in religion. So no one was imposed Islam on them. So they maintained their religion under Islamic rule in the Ottoman Empire, in Abbasis, Umayyads, Andalusia, and India. So conversion took place through convincing and through da'wah bil hikmah, موعظة حسنة, and jidal billati ahsan. So this was the method they followed. Okay, your second question.
Would the openness of the Islamic civilization allow other religions or ideologies to make da'wah to others?
Actually, not proselytization. Proselytization is not allowed. Proselytization means like deceiving them or manipulating their thinking to lead them to a particular direction. So it is an issue that could be done in a very limited way under specific rules.
Okay, this has to do with the clash of civilizations. This is a very quick question. Is that clash that we discussed earlier what is referred to in our tradition as sunnat al-tadafu'?
We don't believe in the clash of civilizations. We believe in the coexistence of civilizations, and the clash is not. Clash does not originate from having a different civilization, but clash originate from some other reason, other political reason, other economic reason, or class originate from an effort for hegemony. Having different civilizations does not cause automatically clash. So usually the effort for establishing hegemony causes for clash, but it may be justified by the existence of different civilizations. So in the case of Huntington, he wants to maintain Western hegemony. That's his purpose. And he wants to frame this clash as a clash of civilizations. It's not a clash of civilizations. It's a clash of imperialism, versus with the colonized people. So they want to colonize the whole world, maintain Western hegemony and exploitation and imperialism. But he wants to frame it as if it's a clash of values. It's not a clash of values. It's a clash of people who are trying to gain their independence, who are trying to protect their resources and dignity with the imperialists who try to colonize the whole world. So it's just justification of of maintaining the existing colonialist, imperialist world order.
Thank you, Professor.
It is not automatically caused by the diversity of civilizations.
Thank you so much. Actually, the thing is, like as I said, we need to accommodate as many questions as possible. We're running out of time. Now, next, Ambreen Sultan. Could you unmute yourself and ask your question, please, Ambreen?
Yes. Assalamu alaikum, Recep Hoca. I am a very humble student of Recep Hoca. So today I got the opportunity to ask this question from you. Basically, like what I want to say is that for we Muslims, Quran is the ultimate source of guidance. So Allah says, call himself like Rabbul Alameen, and he called Prophet as Rahmatul Lil Alameen. So this actually gives the universal vision of Islam. So now I'm very happy that you quote some verses from the poetry of Muhammad Iqbal. And this is the base of my question also, that the founders of Pakistan actually realized this universalist vision of Islam. And so when the state of Pakistan came into being, the foundation was like Islam. It is the second state that came into being on the name of Islam after the state of Medina. So now the thing is, when Pakistan was formed, we have some objective resolutions that guide the constitution of Pakistan. So in the objective resolution, it is stated that our vision is not to just serve the humanity. So like this state has a vision to, serve the humanity, not just Pakistan. For example, Pakistani people. For example, the constitution of US will say that it will safeguard the rights of US people. But this state says that the objective resolution says that the objective of this state is to guard humans. So it is like taking a adamiyyah perspective as well as a universalist perspective as well as. So, but the thing is, I want to take your guidance. Like we have a vision, we have a state that has this vision, but how to implement it actually is ambiguous. So you said that we should recall our memory. Okay, we can read our past, but like practically, what can we do? So, like, can you guide in this regard? Thank you.
Yes. So I think practically at this stage, what we need to do is to educate the Muslims as well as non-Muslims about the universalistic principles of Islamic law, politics, and morality, and increase awareness about these issues. And once this awareness reaches a particular level, I believe it will get reflected on the legal system, political system, social system, and it will change, reform, and influence our practical life as well.
Great. Thank you, Professor. Now, I guess we had Larry who raised his hands up at some point. If you have any question, Larry, please do let us know. Oh, sorry, so Jeremy called. Go ahead, Jeremy, please.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
Jazakallah khair for this wonderful lecture, Recep Hoca. I have a question about your concept of diversity management related to individuals who have a closed civilization mindset, a non-multiplex mindset. Is it possible from that mindset to engage in diversity management, or is it part of the definition of having that closed mindset that diversity management is sort of impossible? And on the other side, for those who have an open civilization and a multiplex perspective, is it possible to manage diversity with people who have a closed non-multiplex perspective?
Yes. Yeah, this is a very good question. As I mentioned in my presentation, as long as people respect those 6 values of Maqasid Sharia and the Darurat Shari'iyya, which means like axiomatic principles of law, if they respect life, property, honor, family, and freedom of expression, we can manage diversity with them. But if they don't respect, these principles, then it would be very difficult to coexist with them. So this is the prerequisite for coexistence with other people, and as long as they respect these 6 items, which is part of the Maqasid Sharia, then coexistence with them is possible regardless of other disagreements between us and them. They may have a different kind of understanding about God and in other issues. They are not really essential. What's essential is these 6 items, whether they respect them or not. If they respect them, then the rest is not so important.
Thank you so much for the answer. We have 2 questions which are almost similar, Dr. Abdul Bari and from Hawa. The essence of those questions are that we are living in the Western society, and how can we raise our children best way possible? And also, how can we engage with the wider society?
Yes, I think, while raising our children, it's very important to teach them the glory of Islamic civilization, the greatness of Islamic civilization, and the heritage of Islamic civilization, so that they internalize the identity of being from Islamic civilization, and they feel proud of being from that civilization. So this is really very important, and we should also teach them to engage with the problems of Muslims, as well as problems of the society in general, and become a contributing member of the general society as well. So they should be contributing to Muslim society as well as the society in general, regardless of the religion or the worldview of people. So this is how we can have a dignified, honorable, respectable status in those societies. If we can contribute, to the problems of our society, while at the same time, maintaining our Islamic identity, this will bring more respect and higher status in that society for Muslims. But if we care only about the Muslim minority in a Western society, and marginalize ourselves from the rest of the society, this will not bring us respect in that society. So we should raise our children with this view that we are Muslims and we are proud of being a Muslim. We are not reactionary, we are not apologetic, and we care about ourselves as well as the rest of the society, and we are ready to contribute to the rest of society, not just the Muslim society.
Thank you for that. We have a question from Hamad. He actually raised 2 questions. The first one is, how do we engage with discourses such as climate change, veganism?
Say it again.
How should we deal with the discourse such as climate change and veganism?
Yes, as I mentioned in my presentation, I think we as Muslims can provide a very significant, meaningful, conceptual and practical grounding for environmental ethics. Rights of environmental rights, as well as animal rights, because the Islamic view of nature and Islamic view of animals are much sophisticated than the existing other alternatives in the world today. So I have an article where I discuss semiotics of nature. Like for us, every being in the world, whether human being or animal or plants or even like material beings, they are all considered as signs of Allah Ta'ala, divine signs. So I mean, our relationship with the material beings or animals or plants is a relationship, with the signs of Allah Ta'ala, signs of our Creator. So this completely changes the view we have towards animals, towards plants, and towards material beings, and we look at those things as manifestations of divine attributes. So everything that we observe in the nature, is a manifestation of Allah Ta'ala, and we see nature as a book, and there are rules and regulations, in Islam about how we treat animals, how we treat plants, how we treat, nature, and also consumption rules, prohibition of extravagance. So all these principles, I believe, provides us and the whole world a new mode of relationship with environment, with the animal kingdom, and this is something we can offer to the whole world. This is something humanity can gain with the rise of Islam.
Thank you, Professor. Here's another question: is what is your thought on the halal meat industry, actually, where the animals are kept in very, very poor conditions?
No, I mean, halal meat industry should not mistreat animals. If they do so, it is wrong. It is against Islamic principles. I mean, there are very clear hadith about treating animals, nicely, kindly, in a compassionate and merciful manner, even if you are going to slaughter them. And in our country, like during the let's say Eid al-Adha, Kurban Bayramı, I mean, people are very, very careful about treating the animals in a nice and kind and a compassionate manner. So the fact that like you are going to slaughter them does not justify mistreating them. So animals have rights, and you have to respect those rights. And mistreating animals will bring you face to face with those animals on the day of judgment, and those animals will take their rights from you if you violated their rights. So this is really very sophisticated and very developed compared to other cultures, how they look at animals. So we believe that animals have rights, and it's a religious obligation for us to respect those rights. And if you don't pay the due rights of the animals or violate the rights of the animals, you will be penalized, you will be punished on the day of judgment.
Thank you for that answer. We had a question from Asim, almost in similar line. I mean, today we had quite a number of questions regarding animal welfare. I mean, that shows how Muslims are feeling about the rights of the animals and how we should be treating the animals. And you have given us quite good guidance on that. With that, we are ending our question and answer session tonight. We thank you, Professor, for taking time and delivering the lecture and answering all these questions. Our next lecture will be on 11th of November. The topic would be Malcolm X and his call for open civilization. We thank Professor Dr. Recep Senturk for delivering the lecture, and we thank you all for taking part and making valuable contributions in this discussion. We are very much looking forward to seeing you in our next lecture as well. With that, we are closing our session tonight. We hope to see you in the next lecture as well. With that, goodbye and see you next time. Bye-bye.